Thanks for watching the news on Times TV. You're with me, Tabby Kumangala. First, the headlines. President Lazarus Chakwera condemns some Tonse Alliance members for conspiring to use NIF loans to reward party loyalists. The Malawi Law Society describes as unlawful the decision to interdict without pay officers implicated in the abuse of the 6.2 billion. Truck drivers threaten to hold a countrywide strike if government does not respond to their queries by end of this week. We have these and other stories. Stay tuned. President Lazarus Chakwera has condemned some of party members of the Tonse Alliance for conspiring to use the National Economic Empowerment Fund NIF loans to reward party loyalists. He has also expressed dissatisfaction with the progress in disbursing of loans and has since directed the Ministry of Finance to intervene on the matter. Matthews Cassandra has the details.
The president made the remarks in Longwe on Monday during the opening of the Business Women Summit by the National Association of Business Women, NABIWI, and the Feminist Microeconomics Alliance. He said one of the ways that his administration seeks to support the women in the country is through the provision of business capital under NIF. Chakwera, however, says he has noted with concern that within the parties in the Tonse Alliance, there are some people conspiring to politicize the loans program by using its funding scheme as a way of rewarding party followers.
I'm therefore calling on those entrusted with the running of NIF to ensure that the best business ideas are supported on their merits, not based on political affiliations. In short, those of you who are politicians must keep your fingers away from running this program because NIF is not a toy for you to play with.
The president has further pointed out that he has been receiving complaints from business women and youth about how prohibitive NIF loans are. He has therefore asked the Ministry of Finance to work with NIF and local banks to devise solutions before the next fiscal year. Joining the event online, former President of Liberia, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, called for policies and actions that would bring transformative change to enable girls to grow in an environment of equity, justice, and inclusion. NABIO Executive Director Babla Banda said women in the country are facing entry point barriers in accessing financing for their business, which needs to be dealt with. Nevertheless, Minister of Gender Patricia Kariati said her ministry has put in place strategies and measures meant to uplift women in the country.
The Malawi Law Society has described President Lazarus Chakwera's decision to interdict without pay officers implicated in the abuse of the 6.2 billion COVID-19 funds as unlawful. MLS President Patrick Mpaka said in 2016 the courts made a decision which clearly states that interdiction without pay is contrary to the laws of Malawi. Minister of Information Gospel Kazako said government will seek guidance on what the law says. Blessings Mpinganjira has filed this report.
In his state address on Sunday that focused on the 6.2 billion COVID-19 audit, which is sanctioned in February this year, Chakwera has ordered Secretary to the President and Cabinet, Zanga Chikosi, to interdict without pay the officers under whose watch the looting took place. Malawi Law Society President Patrick Mpaka says the law is clear, one cannot be interdicted without pay. He says if government will go ahead with the decision, it will cost a lot of taxpayers' money in compensating the officers.
Where the president has directed interdiction without pay, that is not lawful. I think it's a well-known matter, and I think there was a decision from the courts in 2016 that you cannot interdict without pay.
Minister of Information Gospel Kazako says they will seek legal guidance and consultation on the issue.
Our wish as government is to make sure that we interdict people without pay. But if the law is against it, we're also going to seek legal means to ensure that that happens.
In February this year, Attorney General Chikosa Silungwe ordered the Department of Human Resource Management and Development to reinstate on the payroll civil servants who were interdicted without pay.
Meanwhile, the police has arrested 12 more individuals suspected to be involved in the abuse of COVID-19 funds. The 12 are from the Immigration Department, Ministry of Information, Mangochi Municipal Council, and other government departments and ministries. Police Public Relations Officer James Kadadzira has confirmed the arrests. COMESA Competition Commission has called on the national competition authorities to enforce the laws that govern markets in the region. The call was made on Monday in Lilongwe during the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding between the COMESA Competition Commission and the Competition Commission of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Wezi Gausi reports.
Acting Director of the COMESA, Willard Mwemba, says the MOU between COMESA Competition Commission and COMCO was a cooperation framework for the two institutions on the enforcement of competition and consumer protection laws. He says the importance of cooperation in the realm of competition and consumer law enforcement cannot be overstated.
Significant in the signing ceremony is that this will facilitate the implementation of the two competition laws, that is the COMESA competition law at regional level and the competition law of DRC at national level. Facilitating the effective enforcement of these laws is very critical in addressing bad business practices that result in, for example, high prices on our consumers, poor products, and the like. So with this MOU, we will be able to work together to ensure that such offending businesses are detected.
Director of Trade in the Ministry of Trade, Clement Kumbambe, said he was happy that the signing ceremony was held in Malawi. He says it was imperative that the competition authorities should be innovative to remain afloat to detect anti-competitive conduct and prosecute such offending businesses. Interim coordinator of the COMCO, Tradon Kalala Nzembela, says he was glad that they have finally signed the agreement. COMESA has already signed 8 similar MOUs with different national competition authorities in the common market.
Lawyer for Enlightened Christian Gathering leader Shepherd Bushiri and his wife Mary on Monday applied to the Chief Resident Magistrate's Court in Lilongwe to have the case referred to Chief Justice Andrew Nyirenda for certification as a constitutional matter. Lawyer Waponakita said there was need for the Constitutional Court to interpret whether the Southern Africa Development Community SADC extradition protocol, which he said has not been domesticated in Malawi, could be used in discharging the matter. More in this report.
According to Kita, Housing Director of Public Prosecutions Bongire Zinyati, based on the SADC extradition protocol, to make an extradition request for the Bushiris. Kita said in the case there are constitutional matters involved. As such, the matter needed to be referred to the Chief Justice for certification as a constitutional matter.
Malawi, as much as we signed the treaty, we have not domesticated it, meaning Parliament has never passed a law that it should be part of the laws of Malawi. So it has no force of law, so it cannot be used as a basis for extradition. So we're asking this court to dismiss the extradition request, but because this is a constitutional matter, the Constitution must interpret the SADC protocol. That's what we're not comfortable with.
Director of Public Prosecutions Stephen Kayuni says Kita has deliberately chosen to ignore the existence of the 1972 bilateral agreement between Malawi and South Africa. Chief Resident Magistrate Patrick Chirwa has since adjourned the matter to Friday as to when he will deliver a ruling on whether the matter be referred to the Chief Justice for certification of referral to the Constitutional Court or not.
Truck drivers in the country have threatened to hold a countrywide strike if government does not respond to their queries end this week. For some time now, the drivers have been on government's neck to resolve passport issues, licenses, and salaries, among other things. Wezi Gausi reports.
Chairperson for Professional Drivers Union, Major Mkandawire, said government promised to give them answers by end March this year, but it did not happen. He says what is happening is uncalled for, and if their issues are not resolved, strike is the only solution.
We have got a lot of things. We have got license issues, we have got passport issues, we have got salaries and the loading like contracts which the government is still giving to foreign transporters.
Vice Secretary for Drivers Association, Francis Mkandawire, says they are ready to mobilize one another for a strike. He says it is high time someone has to look on their grievances and find a long-lasting solution.
They promised us that the jobs will be given to us Malawians, whereby as of now we see that still foreign transporters are benefiting from our jobs, of which we feel that we are being robbed, because even when paying, they will pay the foreigners instead of paying the Malawians, which is going to benefit Malawian drivers and Malawian transporters as well. So we need the government to give contracts to Malawian transporters so that Malawian truck drivers and Malawian transporters should benefit from it.
Minister of Transport Public Relations Officer Andrew Mtiko said the issues of truck drivers were in the hands of Traffic Department, and Public Relations Officer in the Traffic Department, Angelina Makwesha, could not pick up the calls for a comment.
Authorities at Mzuzu City Council have warned against construction of buildings without the planning department's approval. The council has announced plans to start demolishing structures that were erected without proper planning and guidance. Sam Kalimira is in Mzuzu.
Mzuzu Acting Chief Executive Officer Alexander Chirambo made the remarks when Find Your Feet was officially opening its newly constructed office complex in Mzuzu City. Chirambo said other companies, organizations, institutions and individuals should borrow a leaf from Find Your Feet leaders who followed all necessary procedures before commencing construction works. Chirambo said Find Your Feet office complex will help lift the face of Mzuzu City, extending a request to companies and organizations to invest in the city, which he said is rapidly growing economically.
We are actually appealing to the general public that do not start developments without getting permission from the city council, because as you're getting the permission, it will help you to get technical advice to come up with structures as the one that has been done by Find Your Feet.
Find Your Feet Board Chairperson Fanro Kaputa said the local and government organization has managed to build the office complex through prudence, whereby money for the project was never diverted to other initiatives despite COVID-19 biting hard.
For us to develop, we cannot run away from having our own structures, and financial prudence is a must. As trustees, we've tried as much as we can that we make sure that every coin that we get as an organization is used maximally, and that's how we've been able to construct this magnificent building.
The organization has used 146 million kwacha for the construction out of 150 million kwacha, which was budgeted for.
We will be back shortly after this break.
Do your gums hurt?
Yeah.
Does your toothpaste contain sage, eucalyptus, myrrh, chamomile?
All that in one toothpaste?
Yes, try Colgate Herbal. Colgate Herbal contains nature's best herbs and Colgate's fluoride technology to give you strong teeth and healthy gums.
Ah, Colgate Herbal.
Let's go. Colgate Herbal for strong teeth and healthy gums naturally.
If there's one thing that all soaps do, it's wash. From buckets to basins, bathrooms to streams, and everything in between.
All soaps wash.
Yes, but Protex is different. Its reinvented formula with flaxseed oil boosts your skin's natural anti-germ defenses by 10 times more, protecting you against 99.9% of germs. So what keeps us healthy?
Protex!
Good health starts here.
Tipolole! Kungonjezera mayunits ATNM kuyambira 200 kwacha kapena kuposera pamenepo mutha kukhala mmodzi mwa mamilioneya mu TNM Tipolole promotion. Koma mukaonjezera mayunits ndi 100 kwacha kapena kuposerapo mudzilandira mabonus oyimbira foni, SMS kapena data pompo.
TNM, always with you.
To achieve great things in life, you must do little things every day, like the 1, 2, 3 with Colgate.
1, wake up. 2, brush up. 3, smile through your day with a fresh breath and strong tea. Smile through your day with a fresh breath and strong tea.
Do the 1, 2, 3 with Colgate and give yourself a future to smile about.
Welcome back. Center for Human Rights Education, Advice and Assistance, CREA, has questioned Malawi Police Service's decision to release a defilement suspect in Chileka, Blantyre, before taking him to court. Thomas Kachere has more in this report.
Chileka Police Station released the suspect on Saturday, 3 days after he was arrested. But CREA's litigation officer, Ruth Kaima, says it is against procedures to release a defilement suspect before he is taken to court. Kaima added that for one to be out on police bail, reasons are weighed to see if the bail is necessary or not. According to Kaima, apart from releasing the suspect on Saturday, the station officer was not aware of the bail, which leaves a lot to be desired.
We are very disappointed and upset with the development at the same time, because as you know, issues of development are rampant, and there's been calls from all angles that these issues should be taken seriously. So it's very unfortunate to see that the same police that were bidding to be in the forefront to ensure that those who are accused of such offences are dealt with according to law are now the ones who are trying to evade justice by releasing people anyhow without following the proper procedures.
But Public Relations Officer for Chileka Police, Peter Mchiza, said they released the suspect after noting that the 48-hour rule had elapsed before any statement was recorded until Friday. He said on Saturday the suspect fell sick, which compelled them to release him on bail and told him to report on Monday.
As police, we rushed to the scene where we arrested the man, and we requested the complainant to come forward and give their statements so that we can see where to start from. But since that Wednesday, they did not come to police to be recorded the statement up until on Friday when they came to be recorded the statement. Now you can see that it was already 3 days in cell, and already the time had already elapsed, just because according to the law it is not acceptable that a person should stay in the custody for a period of which is beyond 48 hours. Now we are supposed to take him to court, but since we had no any information regarding to the case, we were just keeping him. And on Saturday, the suspect was now complaining that he was sick. We decided that we can just we can give him a police bail.
Come Monday, the suspect appeared before Chisenjere First Grade Magistrate Court, where he has been granted bail. John Chirwa is suspected to have defiled a 13-year-old girl in January 2021.
Councillors in Chirazulu have been urged to help in protecting the rights of the youth with various forms of disabilities in the district. Rex Kalima, Executive Director for Forum for the Development of Youth with Disabilities, made the remarks during a training of councillors on the rights of persons with disabilities. Kalima explains.
This activity, we are training the counselors on the CRPD, UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. We want them to understand what the implication of the CRPD, and so that when they go back in their respective areas, they should at least incorporate youth with disabilities in their activities or their meetings in their areas. So we try to work with the community directly in their communities rather than in the institutions. Of course, we have been trying with the Montfort, and we've been trying with the CEU and the Macomero, but we see that people from the children's communities, they are left out in many things.
Chirazulu District Council Chairperson Bruno Mwase hailed the training, saying it has equipped them with knowledge on the rights of people with disabilities.
Now, the coming in of this training or this organization will promote the knowledge gap which has been there, and the most important thing is they are targeting counselors, which are the hub of development. And as a country, you know, the government is promoting equal participation in terms of development. And since counselors take part in the development of the areas, the sitting area development committees, where each and every development agenda or development activity is discussed. Now the knowledge will assist counselors to be able to coax or take on board youth with disabilities.
In international news, amid ongoing mass shootings in the United States, Americans remain divided on how to reduce the carnage from these events and also from isolated shootings. Gun violence claims the lives of tens of thousands of victims each year. Mike O'Sullivan has more from experts on possible solutions.
A shooting in Knoxville, Tennessee on April 12th left one student dead and a police officer wounded. In Georgia, 8 people were killed last month at 3 spas, 6 of the victims Asian women. 10 were shot and killed at a Colorado supermarket less than a week later. In California, 4 dead, including a 9-year-old boy on March 31st. National leaders have been at a loss for words.
And the state, I even hate to say it because we're saying it so often, my heart goes out. Our hearts go out for the survivors.
The full picture is even worse. Last year, nearly 20,000 Americans died from gun violence. Another 24,000 committed suicide with guns, according to the Gun Violence Archive. Americans remain divided over gun ownership.
We have a lot of people who think there are too many guns in America and that the key to reducing gun violence, which by all accounts is far too common in the United States, is to restrict access to guns or restrict access to particular kinds of weapons. Another half of the country is firmly convinced that the way to reduce gun violence is more guns.
At least 40% of Americans live in a home with guns, according to a 2017 Pew Research Center study, a right that advocates say is enshrined in the Constitution. Bridging the gap is hard, said Winkler, who outlined the polarization in a book, but notes individual states have tightened restrictions. Gun violence is a public health problem, argues author and analyst David Hemingway.
The public health approach has been incredibly useful over the last 150 years in making the world safer.
He says our lifespan has doubled in that period thanks to improved sanitation, control of infectious diseases, and other measures.
We didn't ban cigarettes, but we've done much better about cigarettes. We didn't ban automobiles, and yet we've done much better about automobile safety.
Hemingway says improvements in auto safety could provide a model. Over 60 years, deaths per distance driven have dropped 85% thanks to seatbelts, airbags, collapsible steering columns, and other measures. No single solution will eliminate gun violence, he says, but using real-world evidence to determine what's effective and enlisting gun owners as allies will help. Gun rights and gun regulation are both part of American history, but constitutional expert Winkler says it's hard to find common ground in a polarized nation. Still, he says, individual states are expanding background checks and closing loopholes while respecting the right to bear arms.
What I think we need to do as a society, I hope, is that we can move beyond the extremes of both sides. One side that says we have a right to bear arms, and so no gun control is permissible, or almost no gun control is permissible. And the other side that says, we don't have a right to bear arms, so we need more, and we need more gun control, and so no guns.
These experts say gun violence will never be completely eliminated, and conversations are hard in this polarized climate. But Americans need to find common ground to reduce the number of tragedies. Mike O'Sullivan, VOA News, Los Angeles.
That's the news for now, but before we go, the headlines again. President Lazarus Chakwera condemned some Tonse Alliance members for conspiring to use NIF loans to reward party loyalists. The Malawi Law Society describes as unlawful the decision to interdict without pay officers implicated in the abuse of the $6.2 billion. Truck drivers threaten to hold a countrywide strike if government does not respond to their queries by the end of this week. You've been with me, Tabby Kamangala. You can get more on these and other stories by visiting our website at www.times.mw, liking our Facebook page Times 360 Malawi, and following us on Twitter at Times 360 Malawi. Remember to wash your hands regularly, observe social and physical distance, and mask up. Please stay safe.
Good evening, it's time for the weather report, and you're with me, Gary Samati. Cold to cool and cloudy conditions are expected to continue with few rain showers due to fairly moist southeasterly air mass. Warning: moderate winds of about 40 kilometers per hour are expected to continue blowing over Lake Malawi. In Shire Valley, expect mild conditions with patches of fog tonight and in the morning. Hot conditions are expected in the afternoon. In Southern Highlands, expect cold conditions with patches of fog and rain drizzles tonight and in the morning. Cloudy conditions are expected in the afternoon. In central areas, expect cold conditions with fog patches tonight and in the morning. Cloudy conditions are expected later in the afternoon. In lakeshore areas, expect mild conditions with few thundery rain showers tonight and in the morning. Warm conditions are expected in the afternoon. And in northern areas, expect cold conditions with rain showers tonight and in the morning. Cloudy conditions with few showers are expected during the day. Focus temperatures. Ngabu, a minimum of 19 degrees Celsius and a maximum of 30 degrees Celsius. Blantyre, a minimum of 14 degrees Celsius and a maximum of 20 degrees Celsius. Lilongwe, a minimum of 13 degrees Celsius and a maximum of 23 degrees Celsius. And Mangoji, a minimum of 19 degrees Celsius and a maximum of 27 degrees Celsius. And in Zuzu, a minimum of 13 degrees Celsius and a maximum of 20 degrees Celsius. Wind will be moderate southeasterly. And on Wednesday, expect partly cloudy conditions. Let's now conclude with the times for sunrise and sunset for tomorrow, 20 April 2021. In Zuzu, the sun will rise at 10 minutes to 6 and will set at 22 minutes to 6. In Lilongwe, the sun will rise at 7 minutes to 6 and will set at 23 minutes to 6. And in Blantyre, the sun will rise at 12 minutes to 6 and will set at 5:30. That's our weather for tonight. I am Gary Samati. Have a lovely evening.
Tipolole! Kungonjezera mayunitsi ati ene mkuyambira 200 kwa